Alrighty, hi, I'm Blood Moon, and I lost my hand paws along with my fursuit about, I don't know, it's probably a month and a half now ago. And so tonight, after remaking Blood Moon, my Sergal, here we are. So, remade Blood Moon. He's also kind of in the top right hand corner, at least for me, but remade him over the past week or week and a half, somewhere in there. Uh, but before I go for a week in Atlanta, I need to have a pair of paws because I lost two heads and a set of paws when the bed of, or tailgate of my truck was open after dropping someone off at their house after a fursuit meet. So, uh, I finished up with the head really last night as I was kind of stitching the last little bit onto the ears, and now I'm kind of working on getting everything set and ready for the trip to FWA. But that said, let's see, I'm trying to get everything situated here on the find the chat for one. Select stream. All right. Anyways, that being said, I kind of got a little bit of a head start because I wasn't going to live stream making the pause, but hey, I kind of have fun doing it, so why not? But let me see if I can find chat here. There's chat. So, okay. Yep. I finally see you guys over here. Okay, yay. Ooh, that really jacks up my screen, putting the chat there. I'll try to keep adjusting this. Sorry, I'm rambling on here, but there we go. That hopefully works better, at least for me. All right, so, yep. Uh, like I was saying, kind of finally got Blood Moon completed. I did sew down the little red tab type thing that I've got in the middle of his head, but I think I tied it down too tight, so it doesn't really stick up like he used to. I'm thinking I'll probably miss that, so I'll probably loosen it up just a tad bit. It came in kind of along the inside of the ears. This was the most difficult part, so the seams, but here we are. I kind of got him more or less looking a little bit better from dead on. He kind of had a goofy look before where his eyes weren't really looking forward. They were just kind of off to the side, but I'm happy with how he's turned out. He probably still has a few trims to do, but I figure all of that can be kind of sorted later. There's a little bit long furs on the cheeks, but I don't really care about that right now. And I need to figure out some cable management, figuring out what to do because I did zip tie the cables together, but in the end, I think that's a stupid idea because I have little shirt ends and knobs all the way down. So I'll probably come up with something. I might do like a shrink wrap or something like that. Uh, and stuff it kind of up in the back of the neck, but there he is. Like I said, you can see some of the long bits of fur. I may come in with scissors and just trim that out. But he's good enough for now. He's at least complete, and the rest of it's just details. But at this point, I did, like I said, start kind of cutting out a few pieces for paws. Really didn't need to show all of that, so figure I can do the top side of the paw here and kind of roll into working the rest of it. Start looking at the fabric I have left, and I really only got about a yard maybe of the white, so that's kind of getting scary when it comes down to making another tail, which I plan to do here in the near future, but not not this week. Well, it might be Sunday. I don't know. We'll see. But all right. You need to make a new pair of paws, but first I need to repair your head for FWA. Yeah, it's coming up quick. It's like 2 weeks out. I'm oof, kind of getting worried about that. Velcro cable ties, soft side out. Oh, that's probably a great idea. I like that. If nothing else, if I could find some. Actually, I've got a pair of real soft Velcro laying around here somewhere. I think it's over in a pile over there. So that might work actually quite well. Thank you. And then, yeah, I can't wait to go to FWA. All of us are getting ready. It's coming up quick. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of dreading how much work I've got to do kind of in between now and then, but at the same time, it just makes the time fly by faster, meaning FWA comes that much sooner. So can't really complain. Either way, it's a pretty good deal. And right now, I decided I'm gonna go ahead and use the same fur that I do for the head base and everything for Blood Moon. So I'm just using kind of a semi-long. It's that Arctic Fox fur once again, and I'm just basically doing the top part of the hands as nice, long, fluffy fur, and then the bottom side of the paws, I had a little bit of and when I say little tiny bit of, I think it's beaver, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe otter fur, which I'll show the difference between. I think that's my left hand, and that's my right hand. So I had these templates left from when I made my first set of paws. They're from Octavia's Creatures, which is a Sergal hand paw pattern. And yeah, more or less, they're going to be a little bit different than the standard paws that you see out there with just beans or whatnot. They'll be a little bit more Sergal like. This is a bad representation because I don't know, all the print was on the backside of a photo paper and they're all smeary. They just kind of smear, but you can see the hands are quite a bit different than a normal one just because they're circles. But there we are. Um, but yeah, Octavia's stuff, they seem to fit me well. They are very directional, which, let's see. You can probably see, no, maybe not. We'll lay it flat. Like the thumb does have a specific side, so sometimes that makes it a little bit more difficult, but the way the paw lays out, it's pretty easy to tell which side is which, plus the thumb kind of sticks out in the correct spot with this pattern. So can't recall if I scaled this one up like 10%, so it might be 110% just to make it a little bit bigger. You can see it looks big, but once you actually start getting that curvature and your hands in there, and I might put some polyfill in the paws or in the finger parts. We'll see. Last ones fit pretty darn good. I did have those ones lined. I think I'm not gonna line uh this set just because I don't like the lining. Lining tends to get soggy and then they get stuck on my hands, so I kind of gave up on that piece. And I'll try it out, and if I don't like it, then I will line them in the future or make another set. Yeah, feet paws, that's another thing that I'd really like to try to knock out before FWA, but I know that that's not going to happen. Uh, but if it does, I've got a set of cowboy boots that I've been trying to use as my Sergal foot paws for I don't even know how long now. Every time I try it, I realize that I'm an idiot for even trying because trying to get anything to stick to the cowboy boots or the plain old leather is kind of a pain. But I'm thinking about using maybe a leather glue or a shoe glue or something like that to get some fabric or maybe the foam or something to stick to it and then go from there. So I'm going to try probably one more attempt. My guess is it won't be done before FWA, but maybe for a weekend LA in June, I'll be able to have that accomplished. But if I don't get to make a set of paws or foot paws here before I go to FWA, then my thought is I'll probably just have normal shoes because the foot paws I have now, I like them. They work actually quite well, but they are kind of big and clunky. So I want to kind of streamline those, get them a little bit smaller, and that way they're a little bit more travel friendly, I guess. But all right, so I wanted to kind of show the difference between the two fabrics. You can see the top of the paw. My last set of paws I had a black and white kind of gray mixture going. I finally decided I think I'm just gonna go with white on white, and I'm gonna do some bright red actually the same filament that I used on Cade's fursuit head when I made it. Those things are gonna be bright red claws coming out the end, so I'm gonna try that and see how that goes. I think the contrast will look really kind of cool. Um, but yeah, we'll see. You're hopefully gonna have a set of paws in time for Anthrocon. Whew. Yeah, I still kind of think that that would be a really fun one to go to. I think I'd mentioned I was going back and forth on whether I was gonna go or not in July, and then I think this afternoon I was looking online and it's looking. I think there's something about I forget the name of the con, but it's up in like Alameda, California. It's coming up and it's on a aircraft carrier at the basically a old museum galactic camp or space camp or something that like that. That sounds really fun. Downfall is it's right after FWA, and I don't know that I can get that much time off of work, and it's about a 12-hour drive up to San Fran area from where I'm at, so that one's probably not going to happen. I gave Jinx the option of trying to go to that, but it's right during the middle of her birthday, so that's probably not gonna happen. Actually, it's not gonna happen. Uh, but for me, whether it goes or not, I don't know. It's just kind of a thought I had. Let's see what I end up with. But scrap box. Totally missed the scrap box. There we go. All right, so I say I'm worried. I've still got a ton of this white, but it goes quickly. And I think my daughter had used quite a bit of that for her boyfriend's dragon tail. That thing, it's massive. But she ended up buying probably 6, 7 yards from Big Z the other day. So she's got not just of white, but of black and white. So all right, double check the back side of the fabric here. It looks like I might have. Oh no, that's not too bad. I was gonna say I think I've got a little bit of a stain here. It looks like it'll rub out. It's just some dust or whatnot. You can still see a little bit, but it looks like it will be kind of right in about here on the fingers. I think by the time I finish it, it'll be fine. They're gonna be white paws. My hands are gonna touch so many things, I'm sure, that it's gonna be super gross before too long. So I'll just continue cutting out what I was working on earlier prior to loading up the live. But that's just cutting out the paws. Once again, I tend to use the razor blade just to do a straight cut through the backing and hopefully not cutting any of the fur fibers. That way they stay kind of intact and I don't have a weird chop in the middle of them. Curvatures kind of suck a little bit more. I'll probably have to swap out the blade, which I just replaced, I don't know, an hour ago, but it doesn't like cutting through tons of backing. It's kind of rough material. So, all right. See chat moving in my peripheral. Let's see. Yeah, my white fleece paw pads are, yeah, they're super dirty. I was actually very surprised at these. They don't actually, I don't know. My last set, I went through and did so much with them, and they never actually got dirty. And I'm not sure if it's just the material type, which that's kind of my intent on checking these ones out. And I know I've got probably 3 to 4 decent sized cons I'll go to over this summer. So between that, I should be able to figure out, is it the material type? If it is, that's good to know. I will keep that in mind for the future. But yeah, this stuff actually seems to keep fairly clean, or it's just getting dirty altogether at the same time in the same interval, which I kind of highly doubt. But having it completely white, that's probably gonna be bad for me because yeah, I'm not exactly clean with my fursuits when I go out into the desert and stuff. But let's see, chop chop. I think that con up in San Fran area or Alameda is Galactic Camp. I think that's what it was. I think I think I'm not going to it, but I think it would be fun. So I missed the fursuit box once again. All right, here we go. Trying to get the last little bit. I do have my claws getting printed out right now. I started that like right before I started doing everything, and there's probably 2 more hours to go on those. I should have thought about that sooner, but I always like to do it and then feel like I wish I had all the stuff available for me right then and there. But at least I can print them and don't have to wait on somebody to ship them because that'd be a few days. I should start printing them and just throw them on Amazon or something. Or who knows what. Because I like having fursuit parts I can get pretty quick. At least here in Phoenix, I could get all sorts of stuff in about a day. So, alright. And for the paws, I ended up doing 0 seam allowance just because I did scale them up initially to get me a little bit more room in my fingers and all that type stuff. So all in all, it's just 0 seam allowance directly cut to the edge, and then I hand sew the paws. So that really kind of lends itself to being best to have just 0 seam allowance. So, all right. When I have to make multiple cuts or whatnot, it tells me that blade's pretty close to being dull, but I've got one more claw. I think I should be good. I guess it's not a claw. Finger. So, all right. There we go. Yeah, this beaver is actually really nice. It's kind of like a pre-shaved fur. So everything just kind of lays real nice. It's got a pretty decently thick undercoat backing, so that's one thing I really like is just how thick it is, but it's pretty much anything and everything. Uh, Fur fibers just piss me off when I have to shave them. And trying to get a nice, even, flat cut kind of sucks, but you can see these actually give a pretty nice little paw. So these will be the fingers. Uh, I use the same material for the hand, and I need to figure out what I want to use for my paw pads. In the past, I've used some stuff from Hobby Lobby, which is just kind of like a vinyl or whatnot. And that actually works pretty decent. I don't know if I want to do that or if I want to do Minky, so that'll be something I decided here in the next probably few hours to like tomorrow, because the difference is basically the fun of whatever I'm using on the machine, because that part I will use the machine for. Otherwise, it's all hand stitching. But yeah, so yep, that'll be fun. I'm not looking forward to pinning all of that down. Um, One thing I've used or considered using, not used, but considered using in the past was like a embroidery hoop for the area that I'm working on. And so I'll sketch out the fingers, embroidery hoop nice and tight, get all the material that I'm using, and sew it down. That way it doesn't shift on me and leaving weird lumps and gaps. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm going to just have to pin and hope for the best. So here we are. Gotta deal with that. So, uh, and then we've got the right paw. Just kind of checking scale here. Not real, not real sure. I think I marked it right, but I think that's left. So, yep, that looks a lot better. So I'm gonna flip-flop fix that. L becomes R. and R becomes L. Now I've got the correct hands. All right. You finally bought a 7FC blade yesterday. Lightning deal on Amazon. Nice. Yeah, they. Let's see, 7FC. I think that's a 3.2 mil, which is still, I think, about the primary one that I use most all the time. It's pretty nice. So I hope you enjoy it, like it, and it gives pretty good cuts in my opinion. But still, I can still screw it up nice and easy. So let's see. All right, so I think the biggest thing that I got weight on at this point is the claws. And then really, I'm just gonna have to hand stitch all of these things on. I can take each of these claw mark or claws, paws, whatever, and use the machine, but I really don't like doing that. I feel like they work the best when it's just directly sewn on with the hand stitch. So let's see. Left middle one, left middle two. You can kind of see how they start laying down there. I'm sorry if things are off focus like they normally are. Doop. And that's probably because I was trying to pick up on my face. There we go. And there's the right paw. So as always, I kind of mark what pieces go where. So that's the right paw. This is the left thumb, which I don't think that's thumb. I feel like that's the left thumb. A lot of the times I'm just kind of guessing on which piece goes where, and then I fix it when I'm building it here. So gotta fix the markings. That's why I kind of do a test fit here. Left pinky. Almost feel like that's incorrect. Right pinky. Yep, that looks more correct. So left again. Left. Right. 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 And right. Okay. And for the super exciting part that nobody cares about, but you can either stay and watch or don't. But I'm gonna basically start doing some hand stitching. Get the claws or the fingers on the top of the hand part, which we'll see how that looks in general. Like I said, I'll have the top of the hand here be nice long fur, basically leave as is, and then I don't know if you can see it transitions kind of nicely down into the little bit thinner, flatter stuff. There's a few bin marks in it, but that comes out pretty quickly, especially as I start messing around with the fur. But that being said, hand stitch. I'll probably do one with you guys. My guess is I'm gonna stop by. Oh, hi Alan, nice to see ya. Uh, oh, yeah, so that live stream thumbnail is one that my daughter made. That's one of the badges I wear when I go to conventions. And she just sketched it up real quick, did a mirror image, and there we go. So yeah, that's one of my furry badges. Let's see if I can find it. It's right behind my head. So, so yep, there's my blood moon badge. So yeah, I figured I needed to delineate the difference between the previous ones, and then Sun Hollow made me this guy. So she did that uh probably about 6 months. Actually, it's right before I think what was it? Anther Weekend Utah. So she had made that for me, so that's really cute. And yeah. So and then the badge or the lanyard, whatever that I got from AFC. It's got the little AFC logo badge guy there. But it's pretty cute. It's got all sorts of different characters on it. And at F so many cons, I can't even remember which ones are what. But at AFC, they let you choose kind of what badge you wanted. So I don't know if they'll do that again next year. I don't know if that was part of the slowdown of why it took so long to get registered or not. But I think I was one of the first in line, and that was still like a 3 hour stand in line in the California sun in September, which doesn't sound bad. But 80 something degrees, despite just being in shorts, I think, and flip flops, because I knew I didn't want to stand in line in fursuit, it was still hot. Uh, so that sucked. But all in all, it was a good time. Actually, probably one of the best cons. So I just registered again for that one. All right. But let's see. That was a badge. Okay, so I usually just get the initial quick little holding piece kind of in. I really hate using clips when I'm doing hand sewing because they just kind of get in the way, but I'm going to clip some of this because of all the long fur just to hold it in place. Make sure I get the right spots clipped and sewn. All right. I feel like I've always got a certain way that I like to sew. I don't know. I just kind of fall into my rhythm, and usually the first like 4 tries I'm catching on everything, and then after that it cleans up. But all right, so I do essentially a blanket stitch, I believe. Yeah, this pattern was a godsend after I tried my initial pattern that I used. Whew. The first ones I used were like a 4 finger, I think probably one of the standard ones you get from everywhere, and man, that thing sucked. This one, the hand is pretty basic. The hard part is all the sewing of all uh the pads and everything like that. But after that, it's actually pretty easy. Like I said, I could probably knock all these fingers out in like 3 minutes with the sewing machine. But in general, I really like the way hand paws feel and everything, how they just kind of work together when I'm using a hand stitch. So that's why I went with the hand stitch, and sewing machine just kind of sucks on YouTube anyways. uh, Not that hand stitching is that much better, but all right. So I do a loop through, and then I always just kind of flop my string back across, and then as I pull it through, that completes the loop. Hopefully I don't get all the spur caught up in it, and then kind of ties a little knot in it. So every single stitch has like a slight knot going into it to hold it in place if it ever busts a seam, which I use like a Hobby Lobby. It's like a heavy duty, let's see, Soology 100%. I think this is 1,000. Yeah, it's a heavy duty thread. So it's like 299, which means it's 99 cents from Hobby Lobby. But it's a nice thick thread, so it doesn't bust its seams very easily. Actually, I can't hardly pull these things apart. If I need to just break the thread, I have to chew on it or use scissors. All right. And then, like I said, I hate using the clips. I feel like they're already kind of in the way. But you're good, Cade. I appreciate y'all hanging out. If nothing else, it gives me watch hours, which I really don't care about, but it's something that I guess is good for the channel. So, but let's see. Yeah, overall, just trying to get this knocked out, and I think here in a couple hours I'll have the claws printed. And what I should have done is done like 4 at a time. That way I could at least do one paw, get that complete, and then I could work on the other. But whatever. I'll probably just quit this here in a few minutes after we do, a few fingers, because not much else is changing after that for quite a while. So I can knock out a lot of the main junk kind of off camera as I watch let's see, 1923 is what we're watching right now, kind of catching up now that they're, I think, done with the season. So we got into 2 episodes last night and probably do 2 more here tonight. That's my exciting Friday night. But I just wanted to do a little bit of this so you guys could kind of see an update, whether it's you guys or the next group of people looking for making Sergal stuff, because when I've went online there was not much on making Sergals, and there were a couple, I think, yeah, really there weren't many. I think, who is she? Sky High Studios. I think she had one, but it was kind of based on a Toonie style, and Blood Moon just didn't fit within that style and the base, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and so I'm making Sergal stuff. I figure, why not? But once I finish with Blood Moon, I'd really like to do one of the projects I've been planning for a long time. I just don't know how to actually do it, but that would be making what I keep calling the Fire Sergal. I'd like to get one that fades from like either a white, which I guess isn't really a fade, but kind of into yellow, and then kind of orange, and ending in like red, and then maybe a black tip on the ears or whatnot, where it kind of just has a flame feel to it, and then really start decorating up that tail to kind of fulfill that fire look to it. But I really don't know how I'd pull that off. I don't have a mental concept. I kind of have a generic one, but I'd like to actually kind of get on paper. So if not paper, actually maybe I'll take the iPad with me to FWA. That way I can mess with it on the flight. Maybe do some sketches and some really bad colorations, because I'm not very proficient with the iPad. But we have one, so why not? It might be a good one to take. It'll be at least entertaining for keeping me going for a while. But all right. I tried to leave a few threads, or I don't know, I would call it a few squares in of the pattern of the weave or whatever for the woven back. That way it's not just barely hanging on by too little of material, but I don't want to go too deep in it either. So it's kind of a tough balance to figure out what the right amount is, but in the end I want it to lay nice and flat. And if it feels a little bit loose, I may just go work my way all the way back down the line with the thread and just do a second layer just to catch a different spot. So let's see. I almost always do that on small seams in the first place anyways, but the good thing with paws is you have like the base of the palm that these kind of tie onto, so that kind of gives it quite a bit more structure as well. But I'll loosely kind of go back down the line here just a little bit. Have I ever thought of making a new set of ref sheets? Um, I would love to, and I'd also love to commission some art. And I haven't really gotten into the art thing. I really don't have any good references, any good art depictions, anything like that of Blood Moon. I should really get on that, but I just I haven't. So that's something I should do in the future. I haven't figured out kind of the right person, but I think if I find a person that has the right style that I'm like, yep, that's what I'm looking for, uh, I'd probably say, hey, let's do something. But up to this point, all my art comes from either people giving me, hey, this is my, what is it? I don't know. Drawing a blank. I guess fan art. from online. I've got a few of those, and they've been really cute. I love them. But there's that, and then my daughters made me a couple, and then Sun Hollow suits making me like the badge and stuff, like little things, but I haven't actually gone out there and commissioned really anything. So that's where my art sits. Uh, my daughter's gotten pretty decent with her sketches on the iPad. She does really well. Hopefully, if she's free kind of over the summer, I can have her kind of help me come up with a good plan for what I want with the fire circle, because she understands kind of what I'm going for with that. And I think we can kind of talk it through as she's going and be like, nope, nope, let's do this, a little bit of fire here, or do the transition of the colors here. Let's make that white instead of black. And I don't know, just doing a little bit of swaps. I think she can help me out. But for an actual ref sheet for Blood Moon, I don't see myself doing one. I should do one because people ask for them, and I'm like, yeah. So we used a free base to color it in, and the reference doesn't match Blood Moon like at all. I think the only thing that's pretty darn close is the tail, and yeah, that's about where it ends. So yeah, we'll see. I find ref sheets when I'm making them myself. I don't know what I would do with a ref sheet after I've already got the fursuit made and I made it myself, and I just kind of go with my gut feelings and change things as I go. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do with it other than share it and say, hey, this is my ref sheet. This is my guy. But so yeah, that's that. Uh what I feel like I should do one of these days is do like a my favorite Sergal fursuit review and kind of talk about the elements of certain ones I really like. And I know that Sergal's is specific. I should probably do something along the lines of, hey, these are some of my favorite fursuits in general, and people have asked, do I like realistic versus toony the most? And I like both of them, but I think both have certain styles that like lend themselves better to others. In my opinion, I really like Sergals in the more realistic uh frame, because I think with the eyes, the toony style eyes just don't seem to do it for me. But I have seen foam bases that actually worked, but they're just not something that I'm working on quite yet. Uh, I think Cade's brought up that she likes, I think, the lightness of the foam bases, which I don't blame y'all at all, because foam can be super light and versatile and kind of squishy and fit real nice and compress and everything, where the 3D prints and resin bases and stuff like that can get a little bit more just stiff and kind of hit different. But I find that if I get the fit just right, then it works real nice. If it's not quite right, then it requires a little bit of manipulation. Uh but I need to kind of work on making a foam base one of these days just to try it out. So see. Sorry, I'm looking. I'd love to help you. I have a I'm assuming let's see, PTU. I'm assuming free to you base one that you paid to use. And I'd love to help. So, well, we can definitely talk. We'll talk either at FWA, or if you hit me up, we can talk about it. I I just don't really know what I would do with a new ref sheet, but I'm not declining anything, that's for sure, because I could definitely be a little bit more furry like in that respect. So I think a lot of my projects, I tend to just kind of go off the cuff and see what works and what doesn't, which makes me probably not good in the commissioning sense because I try things, and if it works, and if it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't quite work the way I was hoping, and I feel like I need to try that again. And so that's my biggest maybe fault that I have, is just not really knowing what I'm completely doing. Let's see. Right pinky. So that's pinky, that's middle finger. Okay. Sorry, just finding the right pieces. Sometimes the material stretches a little bit and gets a little bit out of whack, so I'm going to do a little trimming here. There we go. Whoops. Yep, so question here is, hello, I'm kind of interested in the furry fandom as a non-furry. Is that part of a furry costume that you're making? So it is. It's going to be the hand paws for my Sergal suit here. So this is the the furry that I call Blood Moon. Finished making him really last night. I finished sewing the ears and everything onto the main part of the head, and now I'm making a set of paws for the furry suit, and it's in preparations for a convention here next month, so in about 2 weeks. So I'm working on making the paws. Right now everything's two-dimensional, so there's some gaps here, but I'll sew those together and start making some curvatures to get the pieces kind of sewn into place and take some shape. So I'm using a template that I bought from someone, I believe they're, let's see, Danish. Octavia's Creatures, I believe she's Danish at least. But I used a template that she provided. I printed it out on 13 by 19 inch photo paper, so I was able to fit everything onto one single piece. This was a scrap piece of something that didn't work previously, so I scaled it up quite a bit just to give my hand quite a bit more space in here, as usually the fingers do two fingers in one of the spots and then one in the others. But once you get everything going, it kind of feels pretty decent. You'll find that most fursuits paws are four fingers, and just kind of do like I said, where we've got two in the ring finger and the middle finger go together, and then you kind of walk around like this. So I find those to be the most comfortable. My daughter has made a set that was a five finger, and I just feel like those fingers are never in the right spot. So I'm a happy camper with the four fingers. It works pretty well. But to answer the question, I think I already did, was, hey, yes, these are for the furry fandom, and it's pretty fun overall. I think the biggest thing is figuring out what what you want to do, what you want to have as your main character, and then just start coming up with ideas, whether it's on a sketch or being able to communicate to somebody to either make you a suit or do like I did and come up and make your own first fursuit, which uh, that I don't know if that was a good thing. It's definitely not cheaper because of the amount of things that I ended up buying and the amount of time I spend doing it, but I have fun doing it. Um, People who have watched for a little bit know that my background's in engineering, and so I like kind of the build of things. Most of the time I worked on building like houses and gardens and just backyards, and I'm very physical. But when it comes to doing things here in Phoenix, in Arizona during the summertime, I don't like to leave the house because it is horribly hot in the summertime. So I decided during the summers I can kind of work on this type stuff, keep myself busy. Lost the thread out of my needle and kind of play with fursuits, and it gives me a hobby that I can do with my daughter and some friends that uh, are in the family, so or friends of the family. But all right. Um. Oh, you got 5 fingers. Okay, I didn't realize. I would say, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but most people probably run with the 4 fingers. But there are 5 fingers out there. I haven't found a pair that fit me very well, but there's definitely some decent ones out there. I think my daughter had modified a 4 finger pattern and to her liking because she's kind of into making clothing and stuff like that. So she tried modifying it. It doesn't fit for my hand, but she's got a much different body style and shape and everything like that. Her hands are a lot smaller than mine, so things just fit differently. I can't hardly put her head on that she made, but yep. So there's that. And I'm sorry you said fursuit? Yep. Uh there's all sorts of different types of fursuits, whether you just do a head, that's probably the least common. I would say it's like a partial or mini partial is a typical fursuit that more people kind of start off with, and that would be essentially a head, a set of paws for the hands, and then a tail. And then you can customize your clothing to be just normal day-to-day clothes that you either have kind of specific to your suit or not. Uh, let's see. Full suit, you would have like the entire thing covering your entire body. For me, that's just not a feasible thing. I may try making one in the future, but I'm pretty sure I know I'm just gonna die in the thing because I'm a sweater to begin with. I think growing up in Texas, it was just about the only way I could not die. So, yep, I don't have a full suit. I just have the head and paws, and I do have a set of foot paws as well. So shoes that kind of look like feet, and they just kind of go right over top my pants or whatnot, and go kind of up halfway my halfway up my shin. There we go. Uh, so that's my primary outfit, and then I just have clothing that kind of works with whatever I'm wearing. So some suits I have like black and green and purple as my primary color, so I'll usually wear like a black outfit with that. Or Blood Moon, he may have a red coat, black coat, something like that. But um let's see. I've got fur everywhere across my laptop. There's a furry convention in the USA. Wow, interesting. Yeah, we've got tons of furry conventions. There, you can find them pretty much all over the place, and there's big ones pretty much all times of the year, usually at least one, maybe a couple times a month, depending on the location. But some of the biggest ones are coming up over the summertime, and I expect them to break all-time records once again, as they do every year. So, but all right, one more. Still believe that is the right finger there. So, okay, hand stitching away. So yes, there's all sorts of different assortments of fursuit. Some of them, I'm not an expert in all the different ones you can do, but I'd say in general, you'll probably have a partial, mini partial. I believe a mini partial may have like a head and paws, something like that. A partial is the head, the paws, the tail. Uh, the full suit you would have from head to toe. Everything in between is a fursuit, and those things get really hot, difficult to move around in. People that do it for more than 15 minutes amaze me. There's dance competitions that people dance around in them, and really good dancers. I'm always impressed because me just walking to the dance competition, I break a sweat, and that's not in full suit. So they're they're my heroes for really being able to pull that off. Uh, because it's pretty taxing. It's not a super easy thing to go more than I'd say an hour in a full suit. You're ready for some water and fresh air. And let's see. There's been a ton of new furry conventions popping up all over the years, and pretty sure most states have at least one furry convention. Yeah, I can't. There might be. I'm sure most states do, whether they kind of hit the top names or anything, but yeah, most states do. Uh, I can't really think of anything too much in like Montana, but I bet they do. I'm sure New Hampshire and those guys probably have some smaller ones, but they might have some big ones I just didn't realize were happening up there. Uh, but yeah, there's usually quite a few, at least kind of in a vicinity, and there's furs everywhere, that's for sure. And they come from all walks of life, whether it's military, medical field, IT field is one of the most common ones that people talk about. Uh, they're just all over the place. So it's interesting, and I think it's a way that people kind of either cope with those stressful jobs that they have. It takes them to an alternate like place, and they can kind of forget about all the stress of the normal life. But we are also not thinking that we are the actual animals, or at least I'd say most people don't think they're actually an animal. Uh, so we're kind of just here having fun. It's a good social time. Get to hang out with people and really just enjoy. Uh, I didn't know what I would expect out of the furry fandom, but I've really found that I've enjoyed it. So it's it's different, and it kind of makes me feel younger. I'm not super old, but I'm in my 40s and I find it to be fun. I'm a late joiner and I joined about a year ago. And yeah, it's just kind of kept me entertained. So, let's see. Forever West and Laramie. Huh. There's none in Tennessee and Kentucky. Oh, yeah, I would say there's usually some within probably a good 4 to 5 hour drive from most people. Uh, Tennessee, I'd say their close one would be probably, sorry, popping thread in my mouth. FWA, and then there's neighboring states that will definitely have them, and there's probably have uh, fursuit meetups and stuff like that. But I think give it another 5 years, almost every state's gonna have a furry convention of some magnitude or another. Just the way the fandom has been growing quite a bit. So even even places that already have them, like LA. Last year I went to my first or the first convention of its sort, which was another FurCon that occurs in Ontario, California, which is like pretty much LA. And then this year they also have another one, which is brand new to LA called Furry Weekend LA. So that'll happen here in June. Uh, July's gonna have another FurCon again. Not July, I'm sorry. September's gonna have another FurCon. And then there's Golden State FurCon. There's several of them that happen in LA throughout the year, and it's just big cities. They tend to have a lot more. Denver, Salt Lake City, believe it or not, actually has a pretty decent one. Actually, it's one of my favorite ones. Uh, they're just kind of all over, but definitely centered usually around the population centers where you're gonna get more people in and out. So let's see. FWA 2025 is a furry convention. Yep, and that one is in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's coming up here in about 2 weeks. So it's a pretty fun one. From what I've seen, I've never been to it, but I expect that it will not be my last. ran out of thread there, but all right. So for the most part, kind of have the top part of the paw kind of set into place. I'm gonna brush a little bit of this out. One of the big things that I tend to always tell myself, before you sew everything together, put a bias tape along the edge of the uh, paw where your hand goes in. That way you can sew it with the paw open and then just do a little stitch at the very end when you stitch the two sides together. Well, I never remember to do that, and then I always have to try to figure out a nice smooth transition piece between no paw and paw. And a lot of times I just kind of say, screw it, I'm not doing that. So, and I don't know if I'm gonna stay with just pure white paws, but I think those red claws that I'm gonna put on this will definitely help spruce them up and kind of make them pop a little bit more. The pure whites, to me, a little bit generic. I really did kind of like the black and white and gray, but I was trying to use a generic single paw for me that would work between the different fursuits that I have. White's going to be able to do the same. The red claws, they're probably going to change up a little bit there, where it doesn't work so well with Hypnotic, my other Sergal. But all right, so I've got the basic shapes here, and I know from experience that I used to try to put the claws up at the very top of the darts here, which are the cuts where I'm gonna sew everything together, and it's gonna be along that line, if you can see. But experience, and I'll probably still learn something on this one, thinking I knew what was going on, but tells me that the claws need to be down at the very bottom. So I'm gonna usually do like a couple stitches right along the base here of the claw area, or the tip of the finger. And then I'm gonna leave a gap because the way that my uh, claws are set up, they have a flared out base. So I'll just push those right through the little hole that I'm gonna leave. So I'm gonna stitch up. So I sew the very tip down here along the base, and then up along the top here, and then I leave a hole here that I'm gonna be able to push the claw through, and that'll essentially pop out like that. So that's what it's going to look like, and if I get the size right, great. If not, usually if I push it hard enough, it'll pop through and be nice and tight, and then I'll come along and glue the claw right into the tip there. So that's about where I'm at. Yep, claws are near the center bottom, hopefully all the way at the bottom depending on the pattern. Yep, very much. So yeah, when I've tried putting the claws, because I had no idea where to sew them in because I had done the fabric and minky claws in the past. I'm like, I don't know where to sew them, so I'm just gonna push them all the way up to the very top and sew them together, and then out of my paws came all the fingers or the claw marks or claws, whatever, sticking straight up, and it just didn't look right. Sorry, me and words don't really get along. So those didn't quite look right. That's the ones I've been actually kind of wearing in the meantime since I didn't have any good set of paws. Uh, but yeah, I am hopefully going to remedy that tonight. And by remedy it, it's probably going to be tomorrow that I actually finish them. But they usually don't take a whole long time. I have had a pair take, I don't know, I think it was pretty much a full day, 8 hours, and I got done with them, and they turned out to look like crap. They were bad. So I ended up tossing those, and by tossing them, they're like in my scrap box, but they're trash basically. I don't know why I hold on to them. Maybe if I needed to catch something on fire and pretend it was my good ones, I don't know. But I pretty much hold on to everything until I just can't hold on to it anymore, and then maybe I'll crush it like I've done in the past with fursuit heads. But let's see. Starting to tie tie the knots down on the bottom of the fingers here, and okay, I see, interesting, depending on the pattern. Oh man, I remember when fursuits were $1,000. Yeah, they're not cheap, especially a full suit. Full suits are gonna cost a lot, and depending on the maker, they definitely get up there in price pretty darn quick. Uh, I'm still learning every day. I'm trying something new and seeing what works, what doesn't. I'll say the latest fursuit, I'm pretty happy with it, but I'm seeing one ear sits a little bit higher than the other. I think that'll kind of fix itself when I pack it up to fly and go around conventions. I think everything's gonna loosen up, and I'll probably just sit there and wiggle them and try to get them to kind of balance out. But once it's about, maybe even just a half inch higher than the other one, and it's not like something I did. I think it's just the way it sits there with the glue and everything like that. But all in all, pretty happy with how it turned out. A half inch high on a foam ear, it's not going to make a big difference at all. So, all right, what on earth is that? A lot of money for a fursuit? Yeah, if you go to a convention and buy a fursuit, I've seen like the partials, mini partials, stuff like that for 5 to 6 thousand. That's not including the bodysuit. The bodysuit's the big thing that pretty much covers most of your body. For the most part, I wouldn't say that they're any harder than any other part. It's just a lot of fur. So a lot of times, depending on the pattern work that you may have on the bodysuit, it may not cost a whole lot to make one. It's just really the labor of sewing large pieces together. But some bodysuits have a lot of small, intricate markings and details, which the best way to do it is sewing lots of small, tiny pieces in and really working that. So the more details that a bodysuit has, the more money it costs because it takes a whole lot more labor, a lot of time, and pieces like that really have to be hand sewn for the most part versus machine sewn. And so if you've got a really basic bodysuit, it may not cost a whole lot of money, but once you start adding all the pieces together, the head, the tail, the feet, the paws, it starts adding up, and you can definitely get pretty pricey pretty quick. Uh, I know Cade was on here. She tends to be going with a lot of people that are small fursuit makers, and she hit me up and asked if I would do one for her. I did a head for her, and then she's got a bodysuit that will be getting commissioned, I believe, from one of my local friends that's in the fursuit group with us. She's got a bodysuit that she'll be doing with her, and then she did some paws from a different maker and a tail from another maker. So that's one option you can do, is kind of test your luck with different smaller makers and seeing kind of what they do, at least kind of as a starting point, and see if you like the fandom, see what you do and don't like. Or you can find like used suits, which I've seen a whole mixed bag on that front. I don't know if I'd want to have a used head or anything, because hey, that's a lot of close personal stuff, like having your head shoved in somebody else's headspace, and I don't know if I can do that. Uh but yeah, so new suits usually a little bit nicer. They're of course gonna have a little bit of wear, but it's usually like one person and for like 2 minutes just doing test fits or whatnot. But hi Cade, yep, you're still here. But no, I appreciate the smaller maker, you know, testers and everything like that, and seeing how we do. And I know I know we don't always perform the best, but in general, I think you could get some pretty good attempts at pretty decent prices. So it's worth trying that route if you're just getting into it. And then as you kind of get more into the fandom, maybe start going for those bigger commission pieces from bigger makers that, hey, you know that it comes with quality and it's something that's more of an investment for you, but it's not always an easy process to get selected by them for having a fursuit made in the first place. And even if you do, it may end up costing you many years of waiting, and you never know. It tends to be all over the all over the place when it comes to having big names getting commissioned. But all right, well, have a good one, Alan. Thanks for hanging out again. Yeah, pre-made fursuits. Yeah, there's pre-made ones. You can always try that route. I've seen some good ones. Uh, I would say one of my favorite makers that I've seen, I believe, think she might even be like 16, which that surprised me, unless that's how long she's been making them. But if she's 16, she has some of the best fursuits I've seen. And I can't pronounce the name, so it's like Kochubgleb or something like that. I believe it's like Polish or Ukrainian or something like that. Uh, but I'll have to share the name of that maker. Or if I do a fursuit review, I'll definitely Kochup Club. I don't know. I can't pronounce it. But it's really cool. She does some really nice stuff. Tends to be more kind of the dog fursona styles. But she likes she does some really good layers and just a lot of small pieces that really turn out well. And that's kind of the style that I based within my build. I built a dog that I call Jinx, or that the owner calls Jinx, and Jinx was kind of based on that style of the person that made them. So I'll try to reference that here in the future in a video and do kind of a review of my favorite makers. I think that's something I'll end up doing. But kind of the whole point of that person was they tend to make pre-mades and then sell them or do auctions of their suits. And I think they're getting big enough now that they're like, hey, I can't do the pre-mades because I have so many commissions. So they may not be able to do that as much anymore, but they occasionally I do see a few notifications that they've got uh, whatever it is, a pre-made up for auction. My brain gets a little bit distracted when I'm typing things, talking things, reading chat, so I get a little bit brain dead here. Because I'm very, I wouldn't say very, but I'm pretty much a introvert, not much of an extrovert, so I'll be on here on YouTube talking to myself, so it's not too big of a deal. But then I get into public and I'm like, okay, this gets a little bit more awkward. I don't, it's not like I'm weird. I wouldn't say I'm weird at all, actually. No, I'm kind of weird. But not in a traditional furry sense of weird. When the furry fandom says somebody's weird, it's kind of weird. But I'd say I'm kind of normal overall, but I just don't like big groups, big crowds, and so for me going to Furry Week in Atlanta, that's kind of scary. So many people, but at least I'll have a few people that I know that I'm gonna run into there. I'll be able to hang out with the group, so it's gonna be good times. But all right. And Kate, I think you were saying you were going to the aquarium meet, if I'm not mistaken. I think you got tickets to that, so if that's the case, I think that'd be a great initial spot at least to meet up if we're able to at that. That'd be, I think, a pretty good one. And Jinx will not be there yet, but no, I think that'd be a decent spot. So, and then I'm sure we'll meet up around the con. I don't know how, I know it's freaking huge, so I don't know how much just crossing paths people will do. I know at smaller cons it's pretty easy. It's one of those, hey, I've seen you like 14 times today. Oh, I need to take a picture with you and never see the person again. So that's always fun. But But I think the aquarium would be a good spot. Some cool places. And then there's all sorts of little downtown things to do in Atlanta. So, all right. Oh, I hate hand stitching, especially on YouTube. This is not one of the most exciting things to sit here and watch, that's for sure. Cade's got the right idea. Sit there and play other things and hang out while doing other things. I kind of wish I could do the same thing. Actually, I guess I can. I just don't like sitting there and watching a movie with you guys in the background. I'll forget about you and I'll probably just sit there and you guys will just have a view of my foot for 2 hours. That's no fun. But all right, finishing up a little bit of this. I see I am sure you know furry artwork. I heard that it contributes a lot to the furry fandom. Yep, so furry artwork is definitely kind of tied into furry for sure. It's one of the staples really within the fandom. I've been really bad on that front, really because I'm an older fur. I don't run into a whole lot of the younger ones that I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna hang out and talk to you, and oh, you do fur suit art commissions, stuff like that. I tend to hang out and find those older people that I kind of chit chat. So locally, there's a few furs that I hang out with. They're also into photography, videography, and we've become pretty good friends. And they're closer in age to me than most of the normal furries that are, I'll say, 18 to 30, 24, something like that. Uh, but even then, I've run into and locally met a lot of people that are young, but they're still kind of become pretty good friends. So, uh, but just finding that right art commissioner is, or commissionee, commissioner, I don't know, is kind of a thing that I haven't looked too deeply into, mainly because I was about to retire from one job and I'm like, I don't want to spend all my money just in case I don't have a job right after I retire. But luckily, I rolled right into a different job doing about the same thing that I was doing at the previous company. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I want to be able to contribute and put money back into the community and support some of the artists that are out there. So that's something I'll definitely have to start looking at a little bit closer in the near future. Uh, but yeah, usually a lot of the art is based off of the commissionees or commissioners or whatever furry outfit or their fursona, and they can basically tell the commissioner or me, I don't know, I don't know my words. English is hard. But tell them, hey, this is the style that I'm going for. This is what I want the figure to do, and here's kind of the backstory with them. You get some sort of product out of it. So sorry I'm not the best with explaining anything because I haven't done a whole lot of it. But all right. So we're starting to get some paws here. After I get these all curled up, I will take the hand side and start working on putting a essentially a paw pattern, and that puts the paw pads kind of like the bottom of dogs and cats beans or whatnot. So I'll get those sewn on. That'll probably be a tomorrow thing, but in general this is kind of the start of what I have. But all right. Hi lazy buggy boy, good to see ya. You didn't miss a whole lot. You're just watching, or we're just kind of hanging out here. I'm making a pair of paws since the last ones I made are either somewhere along the highway or in the dumps somewhere. I have no idea. But they're probably sitting in somebody's garage inside the fursuit box that probably has my name on it, and they could probably just do a search for Blood Moon and find, or Blood Moon Furry, and I'm sure they'd find me. But have not seen them. I still hope that someday, like 2 or 3 or 5 years from now, somebody's like, hey, by the way, I've got your fursuit. Do you want it? And that way I can have the whole family and lineage of Blood Moon through the years. But I don't think that'll happen. I should put like a little sign on the side of the road saying, have you seen me? And it's like a lost dog picture, but it's my Sergal suit. But I don't I don't necessarily want to be advertising, hey, call me if you found this. So, but for the most part, just sewing paws together, and it's all hand sewing, so it's not super exciting. And I'll probably quit here in just a minute. I feel bad for leaving right as you get to the party, but yep, it's not that exciting. I'll probably do all this the rest of the fingers off camera because, well, I can sit there and watch 1923, catch up on that season or the current season while I'm sewing things together. But because no one wants to sit here and watch me hand sew for the next 2, 3 hours. It's no fun. All right. Well, that being said, I will probably call it here after this finger is done and move to the living room and watch TV for a little bit. After I tie a knot here, come on. There we go. Alrighty. Well, I think I'll call that good for now, but I'll pick up probably tomorrow. That's my guess at least. And I'll probably figure out by then whether I'm doing like a leather or like a vinyl paw pads. And I'll start getting those sketched out onto the back of the paws here. And we'll go from there. But overall, we're making some progress. I wasn't expecting to get very far tonight, as I'm really actually just waiting on the claws to finish printing over on the 3D printer, but here we are, we're approaching the end, and then hopefully finish them up tomorrow and go from there. So, but happy Friday. Thank you much. Same to you. And I hate to do this to you since you just got here, but I'm gonna call it quits for the night and we'll talk to you guys later. So, thanks for hanging out, and we'll talk again next time.